What's up? It's Monday. Back to the grind. Still under quarantine, but they are talking about lifting everything come May 1st. Today is the 27th. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. I'm not a huge fan of tying things to arbitrary days of the week, but I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you got to pick a time. The thing to me is it the right call or not? And at some point, you've got to go back because you're not going to have enough people working to support the country, or to support the world, from a certain standpoint. So people have to work. The way this society's built, we're not just individual tribes that, one survives over here independent of another. No, we're all kind of interdependent upon each other everywhere. And if things start to fall apart, then we don't have the ability, to just say, well, that's fine. Let that one go. Obviously, that one wasn't important enough. We're not. The society's evolved to a point where we're so dependent on every other thing that we can't survive for long periods of time like this. Now, I've been fortunate to stay working, to be essential. And the question is, what does that mean? Well, it's kind of like, can you say what's non-essential? That's the more difficult question in my mind. And I think that they just kind of picked like the low-hanging, well, people are going to be together or going to try to meet or something. That's what we want to avoid. So bars, restaurants, okay, stop those. Hairdressers, you can do without a haircut for a month, I guess. It's getting rough. It's not too bad today. It's definitely would prefer to have a cut. It was hard to tell, and then if you're looking at that and you're like, well, I'm non-essential. Well, do I need to do something else? And it's, people are going a little crazy right now. And I think there's going to be a rush when we go back to, being able to go back to restaurants and things. But there's going to have to be precautions in place. I mean, yeah, they're opening it up. But now the question is how, and they're opening it up with, maybe a million cases of COVID in the United States, so that's 1/3% of the population. Like, we need to get to 3 million people to have it, to say that's 1% of the population. And like I said, I think I may have had this before, so, the numbers are, what they are, what we've tested for within the last 3 months. And that number may not be representative of the people who have actually had it and made it through. But we don't know. So all you can do is look at the data that you have. The data we have says we're making a decision based on less than 1/3% of the country having this disease. But you have to make a call at some point, because people got to work. I mean, the way the society is, people have to work. They've got to contribute, and people need everybody in contributing. That's just the way it is, So what do we do? What we do still, do you wear the mask in the store? How long do you wear the mask in the store? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. Do we ever go back? Like I said before, after 9/11 happened, nobody could go back to, be on the terminal unless you had a boarding pass. Before, families used to go right up to the plane, watch people go on the plane, wave out the window, watch the plane back up and take off. And now you pretty much drop them off at the door of the airport, and then you're done. That's as close as you can get. So going forward now, every time you go into a store, a Walmart, grocery store, you're gonna have a mask on. Is that? Are you just gonna have a mask on if you feel you're at risk? I don't know. It's it's odd. I would say the one thing about it is, before everything started, I said you got one chance to get in front of it, and that was what it was. You're either in front of it or you're being reactionary and you're behind constantly. And I don't know that America was behind. New York was behind. They couldn't plan for what was going to happen. But I think New York was kind of a cautionary tale for everybody else. Like, hey, you better take this serious. And I think everybody else kind of took it serious after what they see going on there. But New York was definitely probably the guinea pig. And that's the worst case scenario, because you have so many people on top of each other that can't really get away from each other. They can't, survive without that interaction. So they're going to have that. But now it's a calculated risk to say, well, 1/3% of the population has had this. It's still a 10% death rate for those that have been diagnosed. But, it's not proceeding at such a rate that, 5 or 10 or 20% of the population even has it at this point in 2 months. So if you keep holding it down, going, well, there's 1/3% in 3 months. So in 9 months, we'll have a full percent of the population. And the way that this thing spreads out, it's like that. But the exponential growth is slow. It's now linear growth, I think, at least in the U.S. Maybe exponential growth everywhere else. Plus U.S. new cases included. But I think that's what it is. It kind of peaks, plateaus with the number of new cases, number of new deaths, and then you see a gradual decrease on the other side. And what we're saying now is, we've seen the increase. We're plateauing. Let's open it back up. And the risk is when we open it back up, that then we're going to get hit with the flood. Get sick. So, that's the question. Is, how long can you wait? And is this one of the biggest miscalculations in politics, government policy ever done? We'll find out. That's the only thing we'll find out. There's only one way to get ahead of it. Well, we got ahead of it, I think, for the most part. There were still people that lost their lives. But it wasn't so widespread and damaging that it couldn't be managed. And that was what we were going for. Well, now we're saying, we managed it, we're done. And are we? Are we really done? I don't know. I mean, I could see it getting a lot worse, for sure. Hope not. Hope everything stays, at least the way it's been the last month. It doesn't just explode and get terribly worse. My mom still staying with us, so there's a lot of risk there. Although she wants to go back home, I have to keep telling her, it's like, until you have that surgery, you can't go back. I don't know that she gets it. So I eventually wanted to go home, but I need her to be able to be upright, take care of herself a little bit. All right. Well, work should be fun today. We'll try to commission a tank. I think I know all the pieces. Basically, we got a new piece of equipment and a new interface for the PLC, so we're learning. And the manuals are not overly helpful in communicating with it. So, but I think I know what we got now, and now it's just gonna be a matter of making some changes and seeing if it works. So that's what I'm gonna try first thing today. All right, take care. See you later. Stay COVID free.